Good morning. In the last class, we were discussing about the hybrid pi model. This hybrid pi model gives us the equivalent electrical model to replace the BJT. So if I have a BJT in an amplifier circuit and I have to analyze the amplifier for the different gains, voltage gain, current gain, input resistance, output resistance, so on, then I will have to replace this BJT with an equivalent electrical model, and that model is called the hybrid pi model. And we have derived this model in the previous classes by showing how between the base and emitter terminals, I can have a single resistor R pi. And when I look into the transistor between base and emitter terminals, the resistance seen we had found. The AC resistance, the resistance offered to the AC signal is known as R pi, and its value is VBE by IB. So between the base and emitter terminals, I could include a single resistance R pi, and the current flowing here is IB, the small signal base current IB. Similarly, between the collector and emitter terminals on the output side, the output collector current IC flows. So if this collector current IC should flow from collector to emitter, the value of this IC we determined to be GM times VBE. If I want to write the collector current in terms of the input base emitter voltage, we proved that we could write IC as GM into VBE, and we have shown that. So how do I represent the current here? I'll represent the current using a current source, that too a dependent current source. If it is independent, it will be represented circular. For a dependent current source, I have to use something like a diamond shape or square shape. So what is it dependent on? The output current is dependent on the input voltage VBE into the transconductance GM. So the collector current IC can be represented with a dependent current source GM into VBE. So between collector and emitter terminals, we have a dependent current source. Between base and emitter, we have a resistance R pi. Now we showed this is one of the simplest way of representing the transistor. Actually, we will include one more element in this model. Later on, since uh, only an ideal current source will have infinite resistance in parallel with it, and any practical current source will have some resistance parallel. It won't be infinite, but there will be some resistance, maybe resistance of 40k, 50k, 100k. So you will have a small amount of you will have some resistance parallel with a practical current source, and some resistance in series with a practical voltage source. Please remember. So whenever you consider a ideal voltage source, you can directly write just the voltage. You need not write. Remember this fact. If you write ideal voltage source, then you can simply write a voltage and you need not consider any resistance in series. But a practical one will always include a small resistance in series. So the source resistance will always be present in a practical voltage source. Please remember that. This the smaller the RS, the better. So the lesser the RS, the better the circuit. The circuit is good. Similarly, what happens in an ideal current source? An ideal current source, we can just represent it as a current without any impedance. But a practical current source will always have some impedance in parallel. A practical current source should always include some impedance in parallel, impedance or resistance. And the value of this, if I want maximum current to go to the circuit, So if you have a current source in this direction, let me take the opposite. If I want all the current to go to the circuit, then what should happen to the value of this resistance? Yes, here itself you are seeing in an ideal current source, what is the resistance? I don't include a parallel resistance, means that resistance is infinite. So in a practical current source, there will be some resistance, but the larger the value of Rs, the better the circuit. It will be good if I have large impedance in parallel with the current source. And in an ideal voltage source, the resistance should be 0. So the smaller the value of Rs, the source resistance in a practical voltage source, the better it is for the circuit. So there won't be any drop across this resistance, or a very small drop or loss of source voltage happens. The rest of the source voltage goes to the base of the transistor amplifier. I hope you are getting the meaning. Okay. If you have any doubts, please ask. So as of now, what I was trying to tell you is, we have written an ideal current source here, but in practice, ideal current sources don't exist. So I will have to include a resistance in parallel with this current source. And the larger the value of that resistance, the better the circuit would be. Anyway, we are writing an approximate electrical model for the transistor. So we have written only 2 elements as of now. Later on, we'll include a third element. So usually if I want to tell you now itself, there will always be one more element R0, an output resistance in parallel with this dependent current source in both the circuits wherever we not. This R0 represents a high value of impedance, which will help us determine the practicality of this circuit. Remember, in practice, all the current coming through this will not go here, or let's say there will always be some very small amount of resistance to the flow of current because of the material of the transistor. Okay, so there's always some small resistance there, and that resistance, when considered, the behavior of the transistor can be modeled correctly. So usually what we do, we will include one resistance R0 in parallel with this dependent current source. And I also showed you how we could replace this Gm into VBE with beta IB. So Gm into VBE could be replaced with beta IB. Both are one and the same. Both these circuits are equivalent to one another. You can use either one of them alternatively. Depending on the situation, you can use either this or this. Okay. And we also proved that the emitter current IE, the current flowing in the emitter region, is obtained as VBE by RE as we had defined before. We had shown that the current as seen from the emitter terminal should be VBE by IE, and that we could prove by using this model. In this model, when I neglected this resistance R0, I could show that IE is equal to VBE by RE. Okay, but please remember, this R0 is chosen to be sufficiently high so that it will approximate the behavior of a ideal circuit. In an ideal current source, its parallel impedance should be as high as possible. So this R0 will be sufficiently high depending on the transistor. Is this clear? Very important is, you should remember this model for the replacement of the transistor whenever we analyze an amplifier. The another simpler version, or another different version of writing the transistor equivalent circuit is by using the T model. This was called hybrid pi model. Can somebody tell me why it was called like that? I've told you many times, the names in electronics are directly related to their functionalities. Any name given to a circuit in electronics is directly related to its functionality. So what do you mean by hybrid? Yes? What's the meaning of hybrid? You see here, you have a resistance, you have a current source. If we want, we can replace, very often this R0 will be replaced with a conductance. So I have a hybrid mixture of different types of network elements. It's not a single type of network. It's not a purely resistive model. It's not a purely current source or voltage source model. It's not a pure conductance model. It will have resistance, current source, voltage source, conductance. It will have different combination of parameters, hence the name hybrid. Hybrid means it has a variety of elements. It's not a single type of element or one type of element, network element. Pi, because this is in the shape of the symbol pi. You see, I have one branch here, R pi, one branch here. So it resembles the symbol pi, hence the name hybrid pi model. Is that clear? Next comes, I told you, another version of this model is the T model. And as you can guess, it resembles the shape of the English letter T. Though turned to the side, it resembles the shape of this letter T, as you can see. Hence, it is called T model. This T model is also commonly used in analysis of amplifiers, especially when we want a simpler circuit and whenever we want to analyze a circuit where the output is connected to the input side. Analyze a BJT circuit where output is connected to input side. We'll have many such situations. So here collector and base are connected. In such cases, I'll use the T model more comfortably rather than using the hybrid pi model. So what is the change in T model? As you can see, in this T model, we have used the base as the common terminal between the collector and emitter. You can see here between collector and base, or between collector and flowing towards the emitter. You see, in this range, I have the collector current IC. And we know IC is given as GM times VBE, which is represented with this dependent current source. Okay. So whenever you have the collector current IC flowing, you can replace it with the dependent current source GM into VBE. Okay. So I have this connected. Actually, rather than calling this as base itself, very often we'll call this as B dash or the virtual base. And here there would be a small resistance. Anyway, we'll usually neglect that resistance. Between actual base and virtual base, there is a small resistance RBBB dash. If we want, we can connect a small resistance RBB dash between virtual and actual base. But usually, since this is very small, we neglect it. Okay. So let me consider the value of collector current IC is given as GM into VBE. It is
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So just see here. We have the input voltage between base and emitter VBE. And I told you, when I consider the current flowing from collector to emitter, this current IC now becomes the emitter current IE. Okay. We are just taking this base terminal outside, or you just remember, we'll write, let me not show you this virtual base as of now. So this base terminal is taken outside. So we have base current coming from this side and collector current coming from here. So the combination of these two flows into the emitter terminal as emitter current. Remember, the emitter current going from here to here is IB plus IC. Now, if I have the base emitter voltage from base to emitter, and if I have the emitter current flowing, what would be the corresponding resistance? You see, what is the resistance seen? You can see here we have written what is the resistance seen when the emitter current is considered and base emitter voltage is considered. The corresponding resistance is known as the emitter resistance or small signal emitter resistance RE. Okay. If I consider the base current to be flowing and the base emitter voltage, then the resistance is seen from here. This resistance, I'll call it as R pi. That is the resistance which I used in the hybrid pi model, because I had considered the base current and the base emitter voltage. But here it is the emitter current which comes into picture and the base emitter voltage. So the resistance that exists will be RE. So from this terminal to the emitter, the resistance which comes into picture is RE. Please remember, this RE is much less than R pi, or effectively speaking, RE is R pi by 1 plus beta. This RE is a very small resistance because the current is large. Voltage VBE is the same, but the current is large. So naturally the resistance RE is much less than R pi. I hope you understood this T model. So the T model includes again one dependent current source and one resistance, but the dependent current source is the same as in the previous case because it is used to represent collector current or output current IC, which is equal to GM into VBE. It is dependent on the input voltage VBE, whereas the resistance used in this model is the emitter resistance RE. So the emitter resistance RE will be much lesser than the resistance R pi, which is seen between base and emitter when the base current flows. RE is the resistance when the emitter current flows. It is as looking from the emitter terminal. Okay, so I can use that resistance here because I know the current in that branch is IE, emitter current, which is the sum of IC and IB. So just like in the previous case, we can replace this GM VBE with alpha. That's what is shown here. GM VBE can be written as GM into IERE. I know VBE is this voltage, which could be IE into RE, and we know that GM-RE represents alpha. Okay, GM-R pi gives you beta, GM-RE gives you alpha. So alpha times IE could be the replacement of the value for this dependent current source. Here, I could replace GM-VBE with beta IB, whereas here I'll replace GM-VBE with alpha IE. So that I'll have this current as IE, this as IC. IC is always, we know, IC is always equivalent to alpha times IE, and IE is equivalent to IB plus IC. All this is true. So the same T model can be written in this shape also. Only thing is we are considering the current value to be written differently. In terms of alpha and IE, we are trying to write the current. And in this, we have to find, like in this case, we were not sure whether the value of emitter current would match as the value what we derived. The value of emitter current here had to be VBE by IE. We proved that here. In this case, we have to show that the value of base current is VBE by R pi. So to prove that, what would you do? What would be the value of this current IB if I apply KCL at this node? Can you tell me what is the KCL equation at this node? Which are the currents entering and which are the currents leaving? Sum of currents entering the node should be equal to sum of currents leaving the node. IB plus IC, both are entering, and IE is leaving the node. So IB plus IC is equal to IE. Since I am interested in the current IB, I can write it as IE minus IC. So I'll bring this IC to the right hand side. IB can be written as IE minus IC. Now, how will I write the expression for current IE? I know the voltage drop across this resistance is VBE and the value of resistance is RE. So the current through the resistance will be voltage by resistance. Therefore, IE is written as VBE by RE, and IC, I already have the value GM times VBE. So GM times VBE, that's what we have written. VBE by RE minus GM times VBE. Now, if I take VBE by RE as a common factor, I'll get 1 minus GM RE here because VBE is taken outside. And we know GM RE is nothing but alpha from our previous derivations. We can easily, IE and RE derivation you check. You know GM into RE is alpha, or if you remember, RE is alpha by GM. Please remember all these relations. So GM RE is alpha. R pi is beta by GM. GM R pi is beta. Remember all this. And GM is IC by VT. We know all this. Okay. So using that condition, I'll get 1 minus alpha. And how do we link alpha to beta? We know alpha can also be written by beta divided by 1 plus beta. This is the relation between alpha and beta. This is current gain in common base configuration. Beta is the current gain in common emitter configuration. So please remember, the value of alpha is IC by IE always. The value of beta is IC by IB. Okay, please remember. That's why this is common base configuration. This is common emitter. All these basic things you should know. You have studied. So if I replace alpha with beta by beta plus 1, I can simplify this expression as VBE by RE into 1 plus beta. We know RE into 1 plus beta is R pi. Or in other words, we have shown that we'll get the base current in this circuit as VBE by R pi, which is desired. Hence, the T model is verified. T model is also very useful. I told you it is useful in such cases wherein output is connected to the input side, feedback, bias and all that. Output and input are connected. There we use T model commonly. In such cases where output is not connected, normally we use the hybrid pi model. Are these concepts clear? If these concepts are clear, with this we will end BJT, which is only the first part of module 1. Next, we'll have to move on to MOSFETs. Any doubts in that? Please let me know if you have any doubts in BJT. Nothing? MOSFETs also you have studied in your ED? Okay, in ED you have studied MOSFETs. You've studied all the construction, configuration and all that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then very quickly, this will be a revision session. This half an hour, we'll just try to revise what we know about MOSFETs. Tomorrow, we'll start off with biasing, and then next class, the equivalent model of MOSFETs. Like how we got small signal equivalent model for BJT, same procedure we'll follow. So what is the full form of MOS? Speak fast. I want you people to be speaking.
Metal oxide semiconductor.
Okay. What is the other type of FET?
JFET.
JFET.
Yeah, JFET. You have what is the full form of JFET?
Junction field effect transistor.
Correct. Junction field effect transistor and metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. Okay, these are the two types of FETs. FETs are also transistors, but which follow the basic principle of, what is the basic principle of operation of FET? Yes. What control device? FET is a
Voltage.
voltage control device. You are right. So FET is voltage control device, whereas BJT is a current control device. Please remember that. We call BJT as a current control device and FET is a voltage control device because the input voltage will control the current flowing in the output side. So here voltage between two terminals is going to control the current flowing in the third terminal. That's why it's a voltage control device. And the advantage of it being voltage control device is that it has a very high input resistance, which will be very useful in avoiding loading effect in amplifiers. So FETs have a very, very high input resistance. Please remember. Okay. And another advantage here is the control signal can be used to cause the current flowing in the third terminal to change from 0 to maximum value. So if you remember the basic operation, how many terminal device? FET is three terminal device, correct? So what is the simplest analogy which I can use for FET? What is the analogy which we normally use?
Source, gate, and drain.
Yes. The tap analogy we commonly use. I'll use the tap analogy to easily represent the FET operation. So this is the source of water. I have the source of this. I'll call this end as the source. This is the drain, the normal drain which you have in your sink or anything. There's a tap above your sink. So this is the source and this is the drain. And what is this controller knob known as?
Gate.
Gate. So basically it follows this tap analogy. The electrons will be generated and moving from source to drain. All these are electrons. If I take an N channel, okay, there also you have N channel and P channel. There are so many classifications. Again, I have depletion, enhancement. I'll come to that. So if I take an N channel MOSFET, the majority carriers, like here we have the carriers are electrons. These electrons will be moving from source to drain. They get collected at the drain and I can control how many electrons should flow by using this knob, which is the gate. So the gate terminal voltage can be adjusted as a knob to control the number of electrons that will be moving from source to drain. Or in other words, the value of these, the drain current, the output current, drain current, or number of electrons moving can be controlled using this gate terminal, which acts like the knob of the tap, right? This is the basic. And then we have N channel, P channel. What do you mean by N channel? The
N-type charge carriers are enriched.
Exactly, it is electrons which are moving and the channel that is created. I think I have a picture about the construction. Anyway, okay, you have the channel which is created between. So if I have the source and drain in a MOSFET, ideally, please remember, initially there is no channel. The channel will be created later, and the channel that is created between the source and the drain will be N-type. Then we call it as the N-channel MOSFET. And the channel which is created between source and drain, if it is of P-type, then it is called P-channel MOSFET. And if the channel should be of N-type, the source and drain should also be of N-type material. Remember that. Only when the source and drain are made of N-type material, the channel will also be of N-type. And when source and drain are made of P-type material, the channel that is created should be of P-type. Can someone tell me how to create an N channel? How is an N-type channel created connecting the source to the drain? What type of voltage I should give at the gate?
Positive gate voltage.
Correct. You should give a positive gate voltage to attract what? I should give positive gate voltage
Electrons.
to attract the electrons from the substrate. So if this is the substrate will be of P type. When the source drain are of N type, the substrate will be of P type. And remember, P type semiconductor has very few electrons. The majority carriers in P-type are holes. Since it has very few electrons, those electrons will be attracted here to form the channel between the source and the drain only if I give a positive voltage to the gate. And please remember, there is a what layer? The gate is not directly connected to that. What layer do I have?
Metal oxide layer.
You have a metal oxide layer, or we call it as the oxide layer, SiO2, silicon dioxide layer, which separates the gate and other terminals. So the metal terminals, which I'm going to have the metallic contacts outside, it will separate that. This oxide, thin oxide layer, somewhere in the range 4 to 50 nanometer. The thickness of the oxide layer here will be something around 4 to 50 nanometers. So such a thin oxide layer will be separating this. Similarly, if you have to create a P-type channel, you have to connect the gate to a negative voltage, right? To create N-type channel, I should connect gate to positive voltage so that it will attract the free electrons from the P substrate. To create a P-type channel, I have an N-type substrate, and from the N-type substrate, I should attract the holes here. That means I should give a negative voltage at the gate. Only then holes will get attracted. The free holes which are present in an N-type substrate, very few of them are there. They get attracted and they form this connecting channel between the source and drain terminals. Okay, so all this we know. We can also have depletion type and enhancement type MOSFET, right? What is depletion type? The simple way you can define is, in this depletion type MOSFET, the gate source voltage is needed to switch off the device. Okay. So whenever I need to switch off a depletion type MOSFET, I can use this gate source voltage to switch it off. Or if you remember the transfer characteristic curves, ID versus VGS, it will extend like this. Yes, do you remember? For depletion MOSFET, the transfer characteristic will go both in the negative VGS as well as positive VGS. Or in other words, you should understand, depletion MOSFET works both with negative gate source voltages as well as positive gate source voltages. Clear? Whereas enhancement MOSFET, requires a gate source voltage to turn on the device. Here you see, if I want to switch off the device, I need this value of gate source voltage. Here, the characteristic looks something like this. ID versus VGS. Remember, the output current is the drain current, the voltage, input voltage is the gate source voltage, and only when the gate source voltage exceeds the threshold voltage, there is a voltage known as threshold voltage. Only when this gate source voltage exceeds the threshold voltage, this enhancement MOSFET is turned on. After that, the current starts increasing exponentially, right? So please remember this, enhancement MOSFET works only with positive gate source voltages for an N-channel MOSFET. And here depletion MOSFET works with both types of gate source. The major differences between BJT and FET, you can just read through very quickly. FET is unipolar, easier to fabricate. It occupies very less space in integrated form because we package the FETs in very high densities. That means we can easily put greater than 200 million. Today it has exceeded into 10. More than 2000 million transistors can be put on a very small piece of silicon. So very high density fabrication can be done for FETs, but for BJTs that is not possible still. As I told you, because the input current is almost zero, it has a very high input resistance. It can very easily be used as a symmetrical bilateral switch. Memory devices, very commonly we use FETs. It is less noisy than BJT. BJT is more noisy, and it doesn't have any offset voltage even at zero input. No error voltages exist in FETs based devices, but in BJT based devices there are error voltages. But all these advantages are obtained at the cost of one parameter, which is gain. The gain of FET is lesser when compared to BJT. So please remember, all this is obtained at the cost of smaller gain. Actually speaking, the bandwidth is higher in FET, but we normally consider the product of gain and bandwidth as a measuring parameter rather than simply considering gain. So basically, if I have to mention, gain is lower in FET rather than BJT than in BJT. Bandwidth is higher only, but still the product of gain into bandwidth, which is called the figure of merit. We call gain bandwidth product as the figure of merit in amplifiers. Please remember all these terms. You will be measuring it in the lab also. So you will be measuring the figure of merit of amplifier, which is nothing but the product of its gain into bandwidth. Okay. So please link your theory to lab. It will be easier. This figure of merit of FETs is lesser than that of BJTs, but we get many more advantages. So very quickly look at the construction. You're familiar. We said the substrate will, if the substrate is of P type, the source and drain regions will be grown into the substrate, which will be of N-type material. No channel is present initially. The oxide layer is present in between here, and the metallic contacts are taken for source, drain, gate. And we have 4 terminals in an FET or MOSFET generally. The 4th terminal is given to the substrate, also known as the body terminal. So the 4th terminal is available. This is a 4-terminal device normally, but we still consider it as 3-terminal because very often we are going to short this substrate to the source. Since we want to work with 3 terminals and it becomes easy to work with 3 terminals, we will short the source and the substrate commonly. Then this becomes a 3-terminal device. So this is about construction. Next, as soon as it is constructed, what happens? So what happens as soon as it is constructed? You can see N material forms a junction with P material, forming a depletion region in between. Whenever N and P come in contact, so N type, whenever it comes in contact with P type material, you know that a depletion region will be formed. So there is a depletion region formed around this source terminal as well as one around this drain terminal, and that depletion region may slightly extend here also in the gate region. Though we have drawn here to show it looks so long, in practice it will be very small. This distance is too small in practice. So the depletion region around the source and drain will appear something like this, and there won't be any flow of charge carriers once this depletion region is formed. Before that, we know how depletion region is formed. Electrons will try to move from N to P, and they become what? Ions on the P side. They become negative ions on the P side, and they will start opposing further flow of electrons from N to P. Similarly, holes will move from P to N, and near the border of the junction, they become positive ions. That set of positive ions will oppose further movement of what? Further movement of holes from the P side. All this we know. Please listen carefully. You know all these concepts. So initially a depletion region is formed in the MOSFET, which looks something like this when we don't connect any voltages. Later on, we are going to give a positive voltage to the gate. When I give a positive voltage to the gate, I know a channel will be formed in this region. So once I give a positive voltage to the gate, I know a channel is going to be formed in this region. This channel consists of free electrons. So N-type channel or N plus channel is formed. When is it formed? Formed when plus VGS is given. When we give a positive voltage between the gate and the source, or the gate is connected to a positive voltage, we will have a channel formed under the gate region connecting the source to the drain. Okay, so the channel is formed when we give positive voltage. You can see this channel is existing. But how do I get conduction here? If I want some conduction to happen, I have to give a positive voltage in the drain. I have to connect a voltage in the drain, or between drain and source, I should give some voltage. Only then this drain will start collecting electrons which are emitted by the source. So movement of electrons will happen. So there are many electrons in this source range. Electrons will start moving through this channel towards the drain. Drain also has many free electrons. So there are many electrons and they move in this direction because we have a positive voltage connected at the drain. Since the drain is connected to positive, electrons will start moving here and they will get collected in the positive of this drain battery. Okay, that will lead to the drain current ID. And because of the positive voltage at the gate, we will have a very small gate current, but that value of gate current is so small that I can assume it to be 0. Can somebody tell me why that gate current is very small? Why is Ig 0 here? You can see in the construction what has happened. Is there movement of electrons from the gate terminal to the channel? See, only when electrons move from gate to the channel, there will be a current. But do I have movement?
No.
Why?
Insulation.
Insulated layer, SiO2 layer is there in between. So there is no movement of electrons from the gate terminal into the channel. That's why this gate current is 0. This is needed to give a positive voltage here. When this is kept positive, it will attract all the negative electrons from this channel or the p-type substrate to form the channel. So what we now know is the value of drain current will start flowing if I give a positive voltage between the drain and the source. And this drain current actually will be represented using Shockley's equation. We have two versions. The first version is when I have a small value of drain source voltage. Whenever you have a small drain source voltage, the expression for drain current is given like this. Because in this region, the MOSFET behaves like a resistor. It behaves like a resistor where there is a increase in drain current for change in drain source voltage. Every time the drain source voltage changes, the drain current increases like this. So the defining equation is mu n into Cox W by L VGS minus VT and the whole thing into VDS. Do you know what is mu n? Fast? What is mu n? What does mu n stand for in this? Cox?
Mu n is mobility.
Correct. Mu n is mobility of the electrons. Mobility of electrons. If I write mu p, it will be mobility of holes. Okay. Mu n represents the mobility of electrons. Actually, mu n is always greater than mu p. Remember that. Electron mobility is always higher than hole mobility. It's a constant for a given MOSFET or for a given type of construction. Cox represents the oxide
Conductive.
layer capacitance. Because of this oxide layer, I have metal on this side which is positively charged. I have the channel on this side which is negatively charged. So the channel here on either side of this silicon dioxide. So you have the silicon dioxide material. One side you have the metal, which is the gate. This metal is given positive charges. It is positively charged. This side I have the channel which is negatively charged. So it is like an insulator separating two conducting plates. Hence, there will be a capacitance generated, which is called the oxide layer capacitance. Cox represents the oxide layer capacitance, which is formed in this gate region. Okay. W by L is the width to length ratio. If you remember, here you have seen in this. What is the width? This is the width and this is the length of the channel. We are interested in the length of the channel and the width of the channel. That W by L ratio is known as aspect ratio. Okay, so please remember W by L ratio is called aspect ratio. Very important. It varies from device to device depending on the construction. So for one batch of construction, we try to keep constant W by L ratio. And VGS is the given gate source voltage here. This is VGS. VT represents the threshold voltage which is needed for the MOSFET to conduct. I told you enhancement MOSFET requires a threshold voltage VT. This we are calling as small VT here. This threshold voltage that is needed at the gate to put the MOSFET into conduction. That is VT. And VDS represents the drain source voltage which we connect at the drain terminal. So This gives you the expression of the drain current for small values of drain source voltage. And very often this mu n C ox into W by L, we represent it with a single constant known as Kn. So please remember, if I write Kn into Vgs minus Vt into Vds, Kn should be replaced with mu n C ox W by L. Please make a note of this relation if you haven't done it last time. I don't know to what extent you did. Did you do these equations? Yes or no? You don't remember? Okay, as I showed you, the behavior of this MOSFET for small drain source voltages looks something like this. You see, for drain source voltage in the range of 0.2 volts. Here I am taking 200 millivolts, 0.2 volts, 0.15 volt, 0.05, 0.1. So I am taking a drain source voltage to be very small in the range of millivolts, 100, 200 millivolts. The collector current increases with increase in the drain source voltage linearly, as you can see. And different curves are drawn for different values of VGS. Here VGS is, if VGS is less than VT, that curve lies on the x-axis because there won't be any current. The device won't be conducting if VGS is less than VT. Whereas as VGS crosses VT by 0.5, I'll get this by 1 by 1.5. So this depends. Next, moving on. As I increase VDS, we have already given gate source voltage more than threshold. Please remember here VGS is greater than VT and VDS is increased. VDS is increased. Here previously VDS was small. What happens is the channel undergoes a change in shape. You see, the channel which was having constant width throughout will become what? Smaller and smaller towards the drain. The channel width which was higher, so the channel which was like this will retain as it is near the source region. In the source region it will retain, but in the drain region it will become very, very small. We call this, at some particular value of drain source voltage, this channel gets pinched off. So we call that as pinch off. What happens at pinch off? Can somebody tell me? What happens at pinch off?
Turn off.
I can't say turn off. At pinch off, the
Saturation.
yes, it reaches saturation. The drain current becomes, see, the drain current which has reached some level. The drain current which has reached some level will remain almost constant. So after that, there won't be much change. Why? Because of that pinch off happening. So because the channel gets pinched off means the density of the carriers will be so high, it will maintain the highest value of drain current reached during the previous stage. It had reached a drain current of say 0.4 milliamps or something here. It will maintain almost that value to remain constant, and that is known as pinch off. Okay, where the drain current becomes saturated or it remains constant. It won't change much. There will be a slight change, though I have drawn it as a straight line. Ideally speaking, it will be a small change like this. A small slant will be there, but still we'll say that the drain current reaches its saturation level and its value becomes fixed. Okay, so That's why we call this as channel length modulation, or we call this as the shaping of the channel. This happens as the drain source voltage is increased. The equations are like this in the saturation region. So you see the equations in the saturation region are different from the equation of the drain current in the triode region. We call this as, this region of operation we call it as triode region. Triode region means low VDS. VDS is small. Saturation region means VDS has reached some level. Okay, let's continue with this in tomorrow's class. The representation, symbolic representation is there.